Okay, so one of the questions I asked each of you prepare coming in is like, what advice did you have for entrepreneurs in the audience? What kind of lessons did you learn? Kind of curious to hear, well, what's the learning moment here for the audience? Each of you.
I think the number one thing that I learned from the experience working at About was to work with people that you absolutely love being around, that you respect, that you think are brilliant. I look forward, with Open Sky, with my new thing, working with a lot of About people, and we're trying to create lots of the similar dynamic. And so I think the number one takeaway coming for me out of About was work with people you think are brilliant, that you would do anything for. And that's what I think for me it was.
That's why we've never worked together.
Exactly. We shared an office for 3 years. It's enough.
It's like
a lifetime in.
Yeah, it was. We were
Dirty diapers. Yeah. John stole mine. Pick the people. Pick the people first, because your job is going to change. Your business will change.
Right.
The world outside will change. But pick the people that you want to go through that with, that you can count on.
Bill?
So it's not about the people.
It's amazing.
You always hear the VCs talk about people. My biggest learning, I think, and stuff I do now, it's actually more important to focus on the market first. And I see more people in entrepreneurially waste time by putting together the dream team and then attacking whatever opportunity they figured out, as opposed to first thinking about what market they're attacking. And so About was incredibly either lucky or skillful at being at a good market at the right time, and so that would be my advice. Would be, people super important. It's actually the second important thing. The first important thing is actually a big enough market. There's so many startups or people trying to pitch business plans to markets that are effectively uninteresting, slow growth, or small. So they have no hope. So even if the best people in the world who all love each other and great culture, they'll never be successful. It's market first, people second.
I disagree with that.
Yeah, I disagree with it too.
Because think about, right? We were so scrappy and so opportunistic that when one part of our business wasn't going to thrive, we built another part that would.
You should roll up market research.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good idea.
But he didn't, because it was a bad enough idea that got killed fast.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're both right. And it's because if you have great people, you wouldn't do a stupid market, right? You would figure out we need to do Sprints, and Sprints is a big business. So I have to go there also. And one of the things that's interesting, though, is About today, for better or worse, is actually the same as it was 13 years ago. 27 trillion page views later. And that's not true for most businesses. So ironically...
Is that a real number, by the way?
That's a real number. No, it's a real number. I saw it on a New York Times T-shirt from last year. So it's 27 trillion at the end of 2008. So we were built to be incredibly adaptive, ironically, and adoptive, to steal other people's good ideas. So we were always open to it, ironically. But something about the model, and it's interesting. It goes back to what I wanted to say before. From a people standpoint, we were a unique business, and About is still a unique business because, and it's the email I got from Chella Irvine, who's the CEO of About, who couldn't stay tonight, or I would have asked her to jump up with us, is that because of the model, because there are 750 independent contractors in 40 countries who we own their sites, but they own their sites. We control their intellectual property in perpetuity, but they do. Because of that, you have this workforce, and it's interesting. Mike Decker gave me the stats. I asked him for it because there are 97 guides have been with the company for 10 years. Over 217. Yeah, 217 have been with the company for more than 5 years. And if you compare that to conventional work efforts, I believe it probably blows them away. We competed against LookSmart. They had everybody in one room. So when you think about Robin Weiss, who I think has a baby every year for the last 13 years, who runs the pregnancy site and still does, and I assume is still the #1 guide, her passion for the business and the passion that the guides had and still do have for the business throws back on us as management. You don't get that in most businesses. In most businesses, you have people coming in and whining about their raise and whatever. But the guide model And I promised to call out to my brother because the business wouldn't exist today. Because I remember the meeting where Bill and I went to see Rick, my lawyer, our lawyer, and we went with franchises. It was actually a bad idea. And Rick said, he showed me a franchise book which was 3 inches thick. It says, "Your lawyer, I would love for you to do franchises. I'll make a killing."
Yeah.
As your brother, you can't do that. It should be when we came up with independent contractors. And the interesting thing is, I know you're on the board of Associated, and Perlis is here, and it kills me that you're learning about. But Associated, Squidoo, Helium, and there's a raft of them. With all due respect, in comparison, they really don't perform. And a lot of it has to do with, I think, that these people are so committed, so dedicated, and we were so dedicated to their success. We worked for them, and that's what makes it different.
Upside pyramid.
Well, who wants to do the upside down pyramid? Come on, Lou, get up here and do the upside down pyramid. I want to.
I think at the time I'm not so sure we all believed it or not, but it definitely.
You placated me.
Exactly. Scott always talked in company meetings about the inverted pyramid, where he was actually at the bottom.
Yes.
And advertisers, customers, users, our guides, employees, down to him. Ultimately,
Employees, $20.
He ultimately worked for us, and it kind of flew up the pyramid that way. But it actually ultimately was true. When you're in the trenches, it sort of you try to make it all equal up, but actually it did pay dividends in thinking about it that way.